Sports, when you've got a great ball club. Sports, when you're leaving it all on the field. Sports, when your life it means chances. Sports, to survive and advance in sports. For the teams you love and the teams you love to hate. Oh, it's Sports Channel 8. Yeah. Sports Channel 8. Hey. Hey. Hey.
Sports Channel 8 is a streaming show all up in your earwaves on a Friday. And I'm sharing this post on Facebook so you can watch it there. Check us out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m. on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, and also streaming on Tobacco Road Sports Radio out there in the Triad, a great sports radio station. The Weather Moose, Josh Goodson, Brian Geisinger, and myself, Hayes Perm, are with you today. Ben Swain auditing the show. He'll probably jump in and make some snarky comments, especially when I start giving my hot Duke takes and what we learned about them last night. But let's start out with some local stuff before we even get to the sports. I got beef with kids dressing up as 100 years old on the 100th day of school. Who started this? Who started? Moose, can I thank you for this? Did you see your kids out the door today looking like an old person?
My kid did not go to school looking like an old person today. No, absolutely not.
I didn't want to come on and be like crabby person on Twitter who's like knocking things that 6-year-olds are doing. So like I'm 100%. If teachers are like, it breaks up the monotony, kids get into it, it's one of the 10 days of school the kids actually look forward to going, that's fine. But in general, I just wanted to know who started this tradition and that it's stupid. And then I found out parents, some were complaining about you're supposed to bring 100 of something to school. So like one parent was counting out exactly 100 Cheerios. I don't know. That's not my bag.
Do people even live to 100 anymore?
Yeah.
We need to be celebrating like the 64th day of school or something like that.
Get some life expectancy realization in this thing. Like, yeah, you go dress like you're 72. Let's. None of your grandparents are making it to 100, so don't tell me your kid looks like they're 100 years old. and then in other local news, out there in is it in Nightdale? Did I hear you guys got a food hall opening up, Josh Goodson?
Well, first off, it's not you guys. I live in Wendell Falls. I don't even live in Wendell or Nightdale. Like,
My bad.
Please, show your respect. But no, there's a food hall opening today, to which I've never been to one. Is it just like a food court, but meant to sound like nicer and like less Sbarros and Asian cuisines and such?
Yeah, I've described them on this show before as they're a food hall is a food court that just happens to be playing Vampire Weekend on inside of it. So the hipsters can feel good about, myself included, can feel good about spending too much on a bench warmer's bagel and a cappuccino from there. But like, no joke, like I've thought this about food halls for a while, and then I wasn't inside of one for a long time because of that whole pandemic thing.
Oh yeah.
And after
it's over now, so you're good.
It is over. But after getting vaccinated, I finally went to one of the two that are in downtown Raleigh, and they were playing Vampire Weekend inside of it, and I almost had a nervous breakdown. Actually, I mean, in a good way. I was laughing. It just it was surreal.
We need to copyright that description. A food hall is a food court that plays Vampire Weekend. I will say the two downtown, basically your goal in making a food hall is to not have people walk in and be like, wait, this is a food court, right? And I'm not knocking either the ones downtown, and I won't even name them, but there's one that feels more like a food court and one that just feels a little bit cooler, right? One feels like they might have Vampire Weekend play live there during hopscotch, right?
Yeah.
They're just slightly cooler. So that'll be, you'll need to report to us. Does it have a food court vibe, or does it feel a little bit cooler?
And I think there's a stigma that for whatever reason, food courts aren't good. They're not good. They're dirty. But let's not lie. When you were younger and you go to the mall, food courts were freaking awesome. It's
yeah.
Whoa, I can get McDonald's. I can get pizza. I might get one of all of them.
Yeah.
And I'll go get some French fries from McDonald's. I'll go get a slice of pizza from Sbarro. And while I'm waiting for those to cook, I'll go have like 8 samples of like General Tso's chicken or something like that. It was,
Yeah. Hey, look,
food courts are they're underrated if we're going to start playing that game.
Go ahead.
let me show you guys something. We have been on the food hall trend here in Joco for years, buddy. I mean, I don't want to see anything. This is Kinley 95 truck stop, like Goodson said. Get you a chalupa at Taco Bell, and then slide over to the Dairy Queen. You know, get you a dipped cone, and while you're there, go to Wendy's, get you some fries. Or, you know, I mean, we've got it all. We've had it all for years.
This is like, that is just like the essence of America, dude. You said it's at a gas station, right?
Yeah,
truck stop.
Yeah, I mean, like this is why we do everything in America. This is the empire of America is designed so you can go to a truck stop and get Dairy Queen and Wendy's and Taco Bell and pizza. Where's KFC? That's my question. Why do we not have KFC also inside?
Pizza Hut there. It's got to be. It must not have been in the picture. It has to be in that same truck stop. Yeah. I also like how many people at the Nightdale Food Hall, like if you were filling out comments, would actually be like, could use a Sbarro's. Like where's the Wendy's?
This is just the logical progression. It's like as housing gets more and more expensive in Raleigh or Durham or Chapel Hill, like both for buying and for renting, like people are going to get pushed out to the suburbs, and like, yeah, it's just a lot. Like there's going to be like a brewery that gets, constructed within like 3 minutes of this food hall. Like within
there already is one. It literally already exists.
Yeah, exactly.
Goodson, is there more beef between Wendell and Nightdale, or Wendell and Wendell Falls? Is it like more of an internal beef, or do you guys like come together to rival Nightdale?
Nightdale doesn't really care, but Wendell proper, the Wendell Olds, not a big fan of Wendell Falls most of the time.
Not surprised by that.
Drop a comment right now if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. Tell us your favorite old school mall food court restaurant. Usually, like in high school, you had somebody working in the food court that got on the beer taps, even though they weren't supposed to. They were just understaffed. So that was always like, you go to that Frankenstein where the one guy, that was 18 was working the taps. That, you could maybe pull a beer there. But I will say this. I agree with your assessment, Goodson. As a child, it seemed like, a dreamland, basically a Disney World of food, Go back now, it does not, the nostalgia doesn't hold. And here's part of the problem.
Malls are dying.
It used to be, Cinnabon used to be this like great smell, right? But now it's too much. So you're going around and you're like in line for Chinese, but you're still smelling the Cinnabon. And it's like, and meanwhile, like the Chick-fil-A and the McDonald's, just general flavor smells are already entering your nose.
And then that Greek fiesta just kind of wafts over.
And normally this would be a cool thing. Again, like put me at 16 at Golden Corral, and I'm like, this is amazing. But it's just too much. Smelling the Cinnabon smell while eating the Japanese food samples, it just doesn't mix in today's world. So
basically, food courts were like the first charcuterie. Right.
Like living charcuterie.
You were able to make the first charcuterie boards by going to a food court.
Drop in your comment, your favorite food court restaurant. We'll read some of them off here. All right, let's talk some actual sports, but we do need a report from the Nightdale Food Hall. Does it open this weekend?
I think it opens today.
All right. Goodson's got to be there. You got to be there. You got to take your kid, anybody and everybody.
I don't have the kid this weekend.
Good. Wow. You guys worked out custody agreement already? Never mind. Actually, keep it moving.
Yeah. What do we do? What do we do for the months that have 5 weeks, 5 weekends? I mean,
I don't know. I'll have to talk to my wife about this. I will shout out to my wife. I tried to apologize to her on Wednesday when I threw her under the bus Monday for not knowing the timeout schedule. I thought I apologized. She does know the schedule. She was watching. She said my apology was not enough. So she told me what she wanted me to. She told me she was going to tell me what my apology should say. So I'll wait and see if I get a text from her about whether or not I should apologize. Last night, Duke beat Clemson. It wasn't much of a game. Let's talk about the one thing everyone was talking about, including, I believe, Weathermoose brought the graphics. A hard foul last night from Clemson's, what's his first name? Something Collins.
David Collins.
David Collins. I knew.
Oh, we were talking about PJ Hall helping get scored.
Collins faded away like he got hit. Oh, that is dangerous play under the basket.
Almost had a bench clearing situation over here.
Many on the Duke bench to their feet. Mike Krzyzewski understandably livid.
Yeah.
So he got stripped.
Boom!
And that's not.
Credit to the Clemson announcers. Somebody posted they did not homerify anything. They were like, "That's a dirty play, and that needs to be,
it would be hard to homerify that one. Yeah. Look, Wendell Moore hadn't jumped so high in the air. He really left himself vulnerable. Like, it's pretty hard to. It was a very dirty play, but you almost feel bad for everyone involved, don't you? Like, I don't like. David Collins lost his cool for 5 seconds last night. And It was really scary and dangerous. I don't think that makes him like a bad person or something like that. But yeah, man, that was as like egregious of a like dirty foul as I've seen in a game in
He landed on about the best part he could. He landed on his like button side, but like that's 2 degrees spin away from landing on your neck from that.
Yeah, your neck, your head, your spine, like any of that stuff. It's just so.
He's really lucky he avoided the wrist, like putting his hand down and.
Like we saw, was it DiVincenzo? No. It was another white guy in the NBA that Grayson Allen hurt this year. He put his wrist down to break the fall and broke it. I can't remember the guy's name. Played for the Lakers. Now he plays for the Bulls. I can't remember his name.
Alex Caruso.
Yes. All right. As a hard fouler myself, a couple things. One, you can't hard foul as retaliation. That's like one of the rules of hard foul, right?
Yeah.
You can't get ripped and then go back and nail the other guy. That's a bad look. As somebody who I'm more like a hockey player where I see it as like it's a little bit a part of the game, right? My hard fouls are my team is not playing well. Guys keep getting beat on defense, and now I'm going to have to help, and I'm not going to do down but staring at my teammate, right? So anytime, like he clearly got ripped and then like BG said, try to come back. I will say, try to come back and make a play. Everything after the foul seemed to go about as well as you could handle it, right? I mean, Brad Brownell made the dude good over and apologize. Kay accepted the apology. Like you said, BG, he took it as this is a bad play and a play that should come with punishment, but it's not. There's no indication that this dude is just a dirty player or that he was intent to harm when he did it. It was just reckless to the point of you got to be punished for being that reckless, right? Kay talked about it afterwards. Collins put an apology up. It seems to be handled pretty well. If I were going to, well, whatever. If I were going to try and make jokes about it, which I won't, I would say that somebody in Kay looked like he was ready to fight, whereas nobody else on Duke looked like got in the dude's face. The only thing I will say, it was one of those where there was a situation where somebody could be so injured that we forgot about going after the dude that hurt our guy, right? Like if he had just bumped him, but Wendell was still standing, then you might go after him. But at that point, it was like, whoa, is he okay? Even PJ Hall seemed to be running there with the mindset of, is the guy on the floor okay? So.
Yeah, I think that takes precedent in that situation, right? I mean, it looked like in my head, I was just like, something's broke, like, or your mind can go to some very dark places when you see a fall like that. And for someone like, I don't know how you guys, like, if these calculations are in your head too, but like Wendell Moore Jr. is like 3 months away from getting, like 4 months away from getting drafted into the NBA and being a millionaire. And you see that play and you're just like, this is like potentially life altering right now. You know what I mean? Like this is nuts. And I do think as well, like the camera angles last night, like even at Little John, just in general, like it's got the Duke setup where like the benches are on this, like the near side on like the TV camera. You know what I mean? So Duke's bottom right there. You can't see people like pop up. You know what I mean? But clearly they did because the refs
said it.
The refs handed out double text to both benches for people getting off. But yeah, like I also wonder if Theo John had been on the court. Like what? Like, he's the one guy that may have like gotten a little more aggressive. And the other thing I'll say too is this was maybe I'm probably like as far as people on this show, I couldn't that would be thinking about this. I can't remember like a specific play, but Duke and Clemson played like 2 weeks ago at Cameron, right? I was at that game, press row, so everything was right in front of me. That game was really physical, and David Collins, nothing dirty in that game, but was chirping, was chippy, and so I don't think like that stuff was boiling through. I think he just like got mad and was embarrassed after getting ripped last night. And in a moment of chaos, did something that very regrettable, which he is owned up to. But even that was like going through my head. I was like, oh, man, like this. There was like tempers were like teetering a little bit a couple of weeks ago. Then they play again, and but I think Swain pointed this out on Twitter a bunch last night. Like Brad Brunell did a good job of diffusing that situation. And I think you have to give Duke props too. Like they could have decided to be like, no, bleep you, Brad Brunell and David Collins, like, and it didn't escalate from there, and it really, really could have.
I mean, Max jokes. You talked about it being in front of the Clemson bit. Kay was the only one who looked like he was a little bit like for 3 or 4 seconds. He's wandering far out in the corner to place like you wouldn't normally do, and he kind of looked like he wanted to yell at the Clemson bench, but then he realized like they didn't have anything to do with it.
I think he was worried about Wendell though too.
Yeah, he was.
I think his whole thing was like, holy crap, did my like starting point guard like get seriously injured? Yeah, I'm guessing that the Debbie Antonelli also said on the broadcast that Duke's assistants had like held the player, like tried to hold guys back to make sure that they hadn't launched onto the court, but obviously a technical was still, was still called.
Look, Kay's not coming back next year, BG. Man has nothing left to lose. He's going to go out there and risk it all.
Yeah, why not?
What if he Woody Hayes'd it and just his legacy was going out and he just decked Collins? Just
man.
Like, what? But no, thankfully, it did not come to that.
More with some solid UNC fan fiction there, though, about Mike Krzyzewski.
Do we want to talk about the positive for David Collins out of this?
Sure.
Yeah, so immediately after this, Dabo Swinney came up to him and said, look, we need some help in the secondary. You're the guy. We hadn't had hits like that all year on defense. We need you. Come on, big fella.
That close speed. What is amazing, and that we forget sometimes about football, like if Wendell Moore is going up and catching a ball and he's near the sideline, that's a totally legal play to push that guy in the air and try to make him fall on his head.
Yeah. Football is an insanely dangerous sport.
It's crazy.
Like, insanely dangerous sport. Not good for the people who play it.
Speaking of football, did you want to talk some NC State hoops? Moose, Goodson?
We can. There's a big game tomorrow.
Huge game.
Number 4, State and Pitt play tomorrow up in Pittsburgh. Chance for ice cream for the Pack.
Relegation battle.
A chance for State to probably continue being the worst team against the spread. I had to go back and look, but State's literally the worst team in the country of the major Power 5 schools against covering the spread this year.
You were reporting on that. They are. If you've been betting on State, you've been losing basically.
Right, but and I think I actually texted BG because usually Ken Palm, what his number is, ends up being pretty close to what the Vegas number is, and I think State might be favored tomorrow, which is kind of hilarious as well.
They're a 1-point favorite according to Ken Palm. 60, but the Ken Palm also has that game essentially as a toss-up, and I'm going to check out what the Bart Torvik model has it as a 1-point game as well.
Goodson, UNC's got to be pretty bad against the spread because every time they aren't favored in a game, they lose by 20.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a symptom of State is obviously uniquely bad at defense among ACC teams this year, but State and UNC have this weird juxtaposition of very good offenses or pretty good offenses.
Good enough offenses.
Okay. But you've got UNC that's a top 25 offense and State's borderline top 50, top 60. And then just State is also out, but they're horrible on defense, outside the top 230. and UNC is borderline top 80, top 100 defensively. So I wonder if that's a symptom of having just being noticeably better on one side of the court than you are on other. And then when you have an off night offensively, what that does for you in terms of point differential against the spread.
Is Kevin Keats doing everything he needs to do to get fired so far, Goodson? Is he keeping up?
Yeah. And I think they could lose out and he stays, but you can't get your ass beat against Wake Forest and UNC. And he's still got 2 more chances to do that this year too, which is not a good thing.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. It is Super Bowl weekend. I don't know if you guys
say that word. Can we say Super Bowl? Do we have to call it the big game?
The big game.
What was one I saw? I love all the different versions of. You brought this up. So
That's the dumbest. Why do we have to do that? That is the dumbest thing.
Yeah,
we don't know.
On the level.
For advertising purposes, if you aren't paying to carry the Super Bowl, you're not allowed, or if you're not a paying advertiser, you're not allowed to say Super Bowl. So all week you're going to hear the big game, the game on Sunday. This was the best one. Was it Buffalo Brothers? They've got their Super Bowl coverage going. You can tell the guy was putting a Z on it, but clearly trying to say Super Bowl. And then the best one of all time was a few years ago when the Colbert Show did their superb owl coverage. If you put it together, it was in one word. It still looked like Super Bowl, but it was superb owl. I don't know what the rules are, or I would like to talk to the company. This may be one of the reasons why we're not on radio, because we didn't really care about rules like these. I want to talk to the company that got a call from the NFL. We're like, hey, we've heard you've been saying Super Bowl. we heard you called it the Super Bowl. But now, if you're just talking about the game as far as sports talk, I'm pretty sure you can say Super Bowl. We can't say our Super Bowl coverage is brought to you by Movement Mortgage.
Yeah, we can.
It's not, and that would be illegal, I think. I'm not trying to get us kicked off. We just restarted the podcast. Goodson. But our coverage of the Super Bowl big game on Sunday is brought to you by Movement Mortgage. It feels like lack of luster. I know the Bengals have been a cool story, but I can't see, other than the fact that the halftime show is going to be amazing, I can't see casual fan being that drawn into this. You need Aaron Rodgers, you need Tom Brady, you need somebody that my mom cares about, and she doesn't know anybody on the Rams or the Bengals. Are y'all excited?
Not
okay.
Really. Yeah, no. I don't want to do the thing. I guess my thing is I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to walk this line with NFL games that I don't care that much about. I assume other people are into them. I don't want to it's if people are stoked for the Super Bowl, go for it. It's fun to meet up with everyone. We're vaccinated this year. It's everyone can meet up and eat a bunch of carbs and watch football and commercials with their friends. That's cool. So I don't want to knock that. Or if they're really excited to see Joe Burrow play or whatever, that's cool too. It's just it's not something I myself am alone psyched up for, I guess.
Our man Wojcik with the actual history there. The NFL trademarked the phrase Super Bowl in 1969. Nice. And yeah, you can't do it. Goodson, can we at least make some money on the Super Bowl? Are there interesting prop bets that we can check out this weekend?
Yeah, the Rams are favored, 4-point favorite. The total's 48.5. The funny thing about people have to forget about when it comes to props, you can literally bet on anything in terms of the game, who's going to score the first touchdown, what's going to be the longest touchdown. Everybody cares about the anthem and everybody cares about Gatorade and all that stuff, but usually the amount you can bet on those is light. And I think I even saw this week that the anthem was taken off because there's basically practice of the anthem going on.
It's off because Will Brinson. It's Will Brinson's fault. Degenerate gambler Will Brinson of CBS Sports has been at the Super Bowl for 10 or 15 years now. And there's probably a Roger Goodell press conference going on that the whole media's at. And he's over there in the stadium spying on the rehearsal. And basically the over-under would be set at 140 and the rehearsal would be a minute 15. And he'd be under, baby, let's go.
Yeah, the props aren't nearly as fun as they used to be. There's the easiest thing. Look at there's a prop for the first song of the halftime show.
Okay.
Right, and it lists like some Eminem songs. It lists some Snoop Dogg songs, whatever. What do you think the favorite? What do you think it is, Perm?
Favorite's got to be California Love.
No, it's not, and it's not even close. So at minus 300, which for people listening, you literally have to bet $300 to win $100 for this bet. Minus 300 is an implied pretty high favorite.
Sure.
Especially when you're looking at a list of songs and like a California Love might be plus 500.
Right.
The favorite is the next episode.
Oh, okay.
Which tells me that someone already knows, or it would not be favored that much.
Yeah, that's a lot. BG, refresh my memory. Are Dre, Snoop, and Eminem all on that song originally? Is that one of the reasons? Does it catch a lot of them?
I thought I didn't think Eminem was on that song. I thought Nate Dogg was on that song.
Yeah, he's on that.
R.I.P. By the way.
That's dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
But likewise in the same thing, it's just interesting to follow a halftime show. Will any of the headlining artists be smoking? And what's funny is when you look at yes or no, generally if you think the answer is no, you would think no's a pretty prohibitive favorite, like crazy, but it's not. Yes is plus 200, no is minus 300, and like for simple terms, that's almost basically saying the team that's a 7-point favorite is going to win
right.
Their money line to win the game would be, so it's not that big of a spread in that sense to be happening. So orange is the favorite as far as Gatorade choice, and somebody did the research like since 2006, a third of the Gatorade bats has been orange. So
it feels like that'd be easy to research too, as far as whatever teams keep on the sideline. And Snoop's got to smoke. That's like his brand. I realize that he's been around a long time and done other things, but like I was hypothesizing this on Josh Graham's radio show the other day, but like I don't remember Dre and Snoop ever joining pro weed organizations or like being like, Mitt Romney and just like buying into it. They probably are investors in it, but you got to think
Snoop definitely is, dude.
There are, but even if he's an investor, he doesn't like go around talking about that. Like he didn't become, I'm now, like he still just talks sports or does his, music, whatever. Right. But in 1991 or 2 or 3, when I opened up the CD for The Chronic, which I didn't know what that meant, there was a leaf on an all black CD that I didn't know what it was. And I got to think that those dudes, gangster rap being appreciated / appropriated by white people had to contribute a couple decades later with white people finally getting on board to legalize marijuana. Much of the laws against it were, not about marijuana anyway. They were politics and about black and white people. So I know that wasn't their goal. They weren't making music for the movement, but I do think that's like part of the reason why we finally got where we got. And so for that reason, I would like to see Snoop Dogg smoking a blunt during the Super Bowl halftime show. That's just my personal take. Other pro football news. I know you guys were waiting with bated breath at the NFL awards last night. They really are trying to make the NFL awards like an Oscar.
I know.
Like we would tune in to find out that TJ Watt was the defensive player of the year, right? Like,
oh my God.
But we did get a Pro Football Hall of Fame, not Sports Channel 8 approved. Tony Baselli, Leroy Butler, Richard Seymour, Bryant Young, and then Cliff Branch was a senior finalist. Art McNabb, Dick Vermeil, the non-real ones, the like added later people.
Tony Baselli's a Pac Pro, right? I think his kid played at.
Ooh, Goodson.
There you go.
You confirm that? I was like, I knew he didn't go to state, but a kid at state definitely makes him a Pac Pro. But the big one in our world was former Carolina Panther Sam Mills making the Hall of Fame. Goodson, I know you're excited about Sam Mills getting in there.
Okay. He's only in because he's not living anymore.
That's a fair take. That's a fair take.
When I started thinking of this last night, I'm not trying to be like contrarian guy, but the Hall of Fame, if you think of a Hall of Fame like this, I kind of made the analogy of imagine an alien showed up tomorrow, came to Earth, and someone's job was to basically tell him the story of National Football League football, right? Just tell him about the iteration of football in general. And like you start from the beginning, and that guy is talking about names in the game from
Lombardi and Joe Namath and Bart Starr.
Big moments that like big deal. And then you might get into and then linebackers, right? You had blah, blah, blah. Like that guy literally would never get to Sam Mills to basically try to tell the story of NFL football from like a playing standpoint. That's just my opinion. I don't think he has I think we want to put him in for this. Like we put in people for a lot of reasons, like for being a contributor to the game, right? And maybe if that's okay, I'm okay with that. But if we're trying to sit here and think like he got the honor he deserved type deal as far as like just from a playing standpoint, I don't see it.
The pushback I would have here is that borrowing this analogy is like, I don't think if the Carolina Panthers are a part of that story, I don't think you can talk about the Panthers without talking about Sam Mills. Not just like Sam Mills is like a player at the end of his career with Carolina, but like the entire keep pounding thing, right? Which is like the essence. I mean, at this point, it feels like
right.
It feels annoyingly contrived because like Matt Rule is lame and David Tepper is rather uninspiring as an owner thus far, but like. That's the essence of the team, which is a team that's gone to the Super Bowl twice and has had Cam Newton and has like done all this other stuff. And again, you can't get there without.
If we want to do that, like I said, I'm okay with that. If that's like the contributor to the game kind of piece of the Hall of Fame, or as what you're saying, BG, like the story of the Carolina Panthers. If you're trying to tell the history of of football, you can't talk about the Panthers without keep pounding, which came from Sam Mills.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of talk about like I don't know if his stats necessarily was the end all be all.
I think y'all are both. I think his place is the keep pounding legacy, a statue at Bank of America Stadium forever. But I'm kind of with Goodson on that. I know Goodson sometimes does it to be funny, but I think he's kind of right on this. The other reason he got in, not only because it's posthumous, which is just a nice way of saying he's dead, but because he's small. And so that becomes the question too. If Muggsy Bogues is, 6'1" and has his same NBA career, we're like, oh, that's a solid NBA career. That's nice work. But because he's small, it feels like maybe he should get more consideration of like, oh, this is a great story. And that was like part of Sam Mills. Like, does being undersized but then just having pretty good stats mean more than just being regular sized and having pretty good stats? Because I feel like that's part of the Sam Mills story too. So. But I do agree with Goodson that it is. But we talked about this. There's some people that get in because even if you go look and they're like, people sometimes dissect Troy Aikman's stats. They're like, yo, not only are your stats not that great, he was like throwing to Michael Irvin, protected by the best line of all time, and handing it to Emmitt Smith, right? But
Eli Manning is going to get into the Hall of Fame.
Another one, but yes,
he's getting in because he beat Brady twice, but like the way we jokingly dissected Brady's Super Bowls as like being lucky, like those Giants teams won those games like 17-14 or 20-17. It wasn't like Eli Manning was out there throwing 500 yards against two of the best teams and Brady of all time, but he's going to be in the Hall of Fame because of that. I don't know. The whole class is just kind of trash in my opinion, and this isn't like because Torrey Holt should be in there type deal either. It's just kind of.
Do you think Torrey Holt should be? The tough part about putting Torrey Holt in is like the wide receivers that are going to be sitting out there the next couple of years that you're like, wow, that's just.
He should. He should absolutely be in the Hall of Fame though. Like the numbers don't lie. Like
the best stat I saw was I saw a tweet and he literally had the most receiving yards for like the decade of the 2000s.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good like. Regardless of what the number actually is, just like if you take from 2000 to 2010, who had the most yards? That's in a position that stats is kind of all that you're graded on. For you being the number one guy in a 10-year period from a yards perspective, that's a pretty good stat to kind of carry and show people.
You know what Torrey Holt's problem is? He caught a lot of those passes from Kurt Warner. Nobody likes him. If he catches those passes, same numbers, but he's catching them from Romo, he's in, baby. If he was Romo's ace receiver.
If he caught passes from Sam Mills, he would be in the Hall of Fame.
I wonder why historically wide receivers have more trouble getting in the Hall of Fame than other positions. I can't think of a reason why that would be the case. I wonder though. I do.
All right, we're going to keep it in BG's wheelhouse here for a second. I was all prepared to completely ignore the NBA trade deadline, but then two huge things happened. One I don't really want to talk about, but we'll mention it because it's a sports show. James Harden to Philadelphia. Kyrie Irving still can't find teammates that like him. Neither can James Harden. But in our backyard, one I thought that was super cool and on the surface looks to me like a good trade for the Hornets. Montrezl Harrell, big man from Tarboro, North Carolina, ACC legend, reunited with Terry Rozier and helping the Hornets front line in a way that didn't give up too much. I liked Ish Smith is everyone's favorite backup point guard. And Vernon Carey, it would have been cool to see if he developed as a player on the Hornets. But overall, I thought this was kind of a cool move to get a North Carolina boy back in a way that might help him without giving up a ton, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, no. I mean, I think the best part of this deal is that they got a guy that is at a position of need and the cost wasn't that high, right? I mean, moving a second round, being down a second round pick because of the deal is not ideal, but you can always try to recoup one of those in a later transaction. And look, Ish helped them win probably 2 or 3 games this year. And you could tell there were some nights when Charlotte was just a little lethargic and out of options when James Borrego would be like, all right, bleep it. Ish, go in there and run very fast and make stuff happen. And a couple times it worked and a couple times it didn't work. It's you can't playing the Ish Smith card doesn't work every time you use it, And I think there's still hope for Vernon Carey Jr. as a player, but he had fallen out of favor in Charlotte. In the center rotation, he was way down the list. And so you get Montrezl Harrell, it gives you a guy that can play pick and roll with LaMelo, right? That's big. He's an energy guy, a veteran that's been in the playoffs a bunch. I like some of the intangible aspects about it. And again, I love the ability to have another guy on the roster that can pressure the rim. And they're going to need that because the offense has been backsliding. There's no Gordon Hayward for who knows how long. And so you're going to need to scramble around the lineups, play more PJ Washington at the 4, more Miles Bridges at the 3. And again, having someone like Harrell that can threaten the rim with LaMelo is big. I think there's still some question marks. He doesn't really do much to help the defense. And I don't know what the center rotation is going to look like. And right now it's unclear of who's going to play backup point guard. Probably Terry Rozier. Those minutes with him at point have been a little up and down this year. Charlotte also, because of that, they did a 1-for-2 deal. They have an open roster spot. So I'm guessing they'll look to sign a buyout player, probably a veteran guard of some kind. So Permar, if you're available, the Hornets could use a hard fouler on the roster here.
And a good screener. Hard screens, too.
Hard screener. But, no, I think it was a nice way to add a piece without it costing that much. The fit is okay. And they didn't give anything up. They didn't trade PJ Washington. They didn't give up a first-round pick. They didn't trade James Bouknight. They didn't trade Kai Jones or whatever. So they kept all their important young pieces, their development pieces, and didn't lose a pick. So I think it's Mitch Kupchak found a pretty good path to sort of wear 2 shoes at the same time, right? Add a piece without sacrificing all that much. And I don't know, have you seen any of it's been pretty cool to see some of the old Rozier Harrell photos.
Oh, they're fun.
Louisville basketball's Twitter account put out a highlight video of Terry throwing Montrezl alley-oops in college, and that was pretty cool actually, and fun little trip down memory lane. So.
And I just like the fact that he's from Tarboro. Anytime he's a North Carolina boy back in North Carolina.
And look, the Hornets, they definitely entertained signing Montrezl as a free agent a couple of years ago. So it comes full circle.
BG,
cool.
Real quick. Okay, so you said they didn't lose development pieces, right? Stuff like that. Just standing back, I see the Hornets are 28-28, and they've been 500 for ever, it seems right? And I don't watch enough NBA to like obviously get into the weeds, but like I know enough that the teams that win titles and get there like have a lot of really good players, and like obviously at some point you have to be there. Like if I was like a fan like wanting to feel like the Hornets can actually get to where they're like maybe make an Eastern Conference final or maybe do this.
Yeah.
Like are they still like so far away that like that's kind of even crazy? Or it's hard for me to hear all the stuff that you just said and like still just be like, oh, cool. Like they added a guy to where they may now finish 2 games over 500 instead of like at 500.
Yeah, no, it's a huge like giant like who cares, what if kind of situation. No, I think the Hornets are still a ways away from there. I mean, there have been at times this year they've been flirting with being top 5 or 6 in the East, which is pretty impressive. It doesn't help. Like they're at 500 now because they lost 6 games in a row. Like they've been pretty good at times this year. But for them to take the next step and like become a team that can like threaten in the Eastern Conference, like a lot has to happen. But they have some of the important stuff in place. Like you have LaMelo Ball. He's just 20. He's going to get a lot better. He's already really good. Miles Bridges is 23. Like he looks like a guy that could be a number 2 or a number 3 guy on a team that wins 55 games and contends, maybe can make the conference finals or whatever. But now it's figuring out how Charlotte can improve this roster defensively, possibly like add a third foundational piece and then build out from there. And like, I mean, there's just there's probably like, more than 1 million different like ways you could simulate that and see how it would go. They've committed long-term to Gordon Hayward. They've committed long-term to Terry Rozier. I think for Charlotte to be really making this leap, you need to think about like who's going to be taking those spots beyond those 2 guys, to think about who's going to be like the young wing that comes into play with LaMelo and to play with Miles Bridges. And we'll see if PJ Washington ends up being a part of that. But you got to remember they're young. And like, I know patience is like not a fun thing to preach and the fan base doesn't want to hear it, but they're clearly trying to make the playoffs while also still like keeping an eye on the future, which is why Mitch Kupchak has to do things like this transaction with Montrezl Harrell, which like improves the roster marginally this season, maybe gives them slightly better chance of making the playoffs. At the same point in time, he didn't go out and swing some crazy blockbuster that traded 2 first-round picks and a young player to go get Jakob Poeltl or to go get Miles Turner who's hurt or whatever. So, I think ultimately what would have been interesting, and it's too late now, would have been
they got LeBron James.
Well, that would have been awesome. That would be awesome.
If they got Giannis.
But that would be wow. That would be super. They would win a. They would be really good if they had him. But like, it would have been interesting to have seen. And like, ultimately, like they drafted LaMelo and then a week later signed Gordon Hayward in 2020, like in November. And I understand why they did that, but it would have been interesting if they had decided to say, hey, for one more year with LaMelo as a rookie, we're going to kind of bottom out and try to get one more top 5 pick. And if that had ended up being Evan Mobley or Scotty Barnes or Franz Wagner, like they could have found one more like young foundational element through the draft. And maybe that's James Bouknight. I think there's reasons for optimism, reasons for skepticism. But now it's going to be like, is Charlotte ever – they're back on this like same conveyor belt of like, will they ever be able to like get into a top 5 pick? They're probably going to be too good for that because of LaMelo and Bridges. So how do you get the either that third guy or like how do you build the roster up around LaMelo and Miles Bridges? Like those are the big questions going.
Max Gongaware wants you to go add Raymond Felton as your backup point guard. That's multiple times he's come up on the show this week. We were talking about bowling ball Felton at the pro-am. As more casual fan, I hear BG saying this too, Josh Goodson. Basically, there's a good chance Bridges feels like he's entering his prime. LaMelo's got a couple of years to be in his prime, and their prime. Whether or not they're officially all-stars every year, you basically have 2 all-star caliber players. And then to BG's point, can they add a third? And then whether it's aging Terry Rozier or young up-and-coming dude start.
Yeah,
those 2 are really good pieces that hopefully they'll have for another decade.
There have been some interesting hinge points with their team development the last 18 months, which were the sign and trade for Gordon Hayward, right? And then last offseason when they extended Terry Rozier. Because Terry Rozier, if without for that extension, would have been on an expiring contract right now, right? If you don't sign for the extension, Terry Rozier is in the last year of his contract, and all of a sudden you could have gone up to the Lakers, right, who are desperate for some guard help, and you could have said, give us 2 first-round picks plus a young player, and you got Terry Rozier, right? In some other reality, there's some permutation where the Hornets are sellers at this deadline, right? But instead, they've committed a lot of money, tens and tens of millions of dollars for Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier. I understand why they did it, but as I said a second ago, I think they need to be thinking beyond those guys, because I think ultimately Hayward's older, he's still very good, he's on the decline, and I just think ultimately Rozier is a really nice player, very good offensive player, he does a lot of stuff for them, but I don't think for them to become have a championship level team, you're going to have to upgrade at the wing spot next to in between LaMelo and Bridges, basically.
All right. On a topic that I thought we had put to bed. I thought we came on here about a week ago and said Max Congour still the magnetism of the treadmill of mediocrity was his nickname in high school. I thought we all agreed we aren't watching the Winter Olympics. Nobody's watching the Winter Olympics. We aren't watching them. Then I see my timeline. I see you guys tweeting about Winter Olympics. I see you guys.
See me tweeting about them, though.
BG's with me in solidarity. Moose is clipping vids of people crashing. Goodson is sending out funny pictures of men in weird positions on top of each other, asking questions about the skeleton and the luge, which are basically fancy words for sledding. It just depends on which body part you crash first. So, Moose, Goodson, what's been the Winter Olympic appeal? Is it just that it's on in the morning when you get up at 3 a.m., Goodson?
100%. It's on. I mean, what was it? It's 12-hour time difference. It's that, but it's also I can watch these things live. If you're one of the olds watching it at night, that's already happened. Spoiler alert: whatever you watch tonight is not live. When Nathan Chen, who got the Today Show and NBC want to talk about with every breath of you got to watch his short program and long program tonight, buddy, that already happened. Sorry. I watch it in the morning. I'm not watching it at night, and it's just something on in the background more than anything. But I feel like every day it's either speed skating or some sort of sledding or the stupid go cross country and shoot a gun type deal. And we stink at the Olympics. We're seventh in medals.
Yeah, we suck. Point of clarification: are we watching Olympics in the future or the past? We're watching.
These are future Olympics.
We're watching in the future. When you tune in the morning, at times, if you're watching at midday, it might be tomorrow there, right? We're not watching yesterday.
You're watching. If you turn on USA Network right now, you're watching Olympics tonight.
In the future. Okay. But if you watch them at night, you're watching in the past.
Yes.
Very much so. We've hit on this show, and I feel like this is held true. Without being down on any specific sport, I have a tougher time handling sports with judges. And we've already seen, did you see they screwed up something? A dude was supposed to grab his board, but he grabbed his knee instead, which is kind of a heady move because he probably realized he wasn't going to get to his board, but by making the motion to grab, he tricked the judges. They didn't see that he missed his board. They could have called for a replay. They didn't. And basically the wrong dude got the gold medal. Then there was another one. I can't remember if he was Japanese or somebody else got just a terrible score from the judges. So anything that depends on judges ruling, less interest to me because judges could screw it up. And then 2, all the ones that are racing where it's just one at a time, no fun. Now I'm all about the moto. I don't get the names I'm right, but the snowboarding where there's 4 of them next to each other, fantastic. Or I even like the speed skating, even if it's all luck. Even if you have just as much chance.
Speed skating is the worst. I would be so pissed if I was an Olympian, right? And the Olympics, the the way that they talk about these sports, they want to make it think like if you're an Olympian, you are the most serious, dedicated person in the history of the planet at your profession. And they're like, you literally done nothing the last 4 years except for that, which like maybe is true or it's overdone just the way they talk about like Olympic athletes.
I haven't talked to my wife and kids for 4 years because I've been training for this Olympics. I've put them aside. This is too important.
Speed skating, I feel like it's not even like, so the judges is one thing, right? Like, and we joke about like referees don't affect the outcome of sports. Like, you know, whatever, like you chose to do that. Speed skating, if you start first, you're going to win. And if you don't start first, there's like a 50% chance it's going to end in a crash. And everyone is like kind of cool knowing that. Yeah. Like, you got in a crash, you didn't win. I'm like, what? I would be pissed if like, again, if I'm working up to this moment and random and just like luck affects like something like that.
I get mad when I play basketball and I'm on the court. It doesn't even have to be my teammate necessarily, but there's 9 people that are like relatively close to the same skill level. You know, like someone's going to win, but it's like, in theory, you've got 10 people and you're playing a competitive game and everybody's playing about the same level of hard and everybody wants to win the same amount. But if you got one person out there who like can't keep up or just literally isn't good enough, we just had to bring in like the 10th, and it's like, you know, super frustrating, right? He just
you mean the Justin McCoy, if you will.
Yeah, he just
pick up basketball.
He can't play with it. It used to be like this in golf. One of my goals in life was to just become respectable enough that if I played with a foursome, they could be shooting in the 80s. I might be shooting 100, but I'm not slowing them down. Like I'm playing with them, right? Yeah. It's got to be the most, and I don't know which speed skaters suck. But if you get knocked over, if you are like legit good and the person who trips you, like everyone knows sucks and they just fell, I would be livid. It's probably the Americans that are in there that suck, and like the Danes are like,
we stink at Winter Olympics.
I know, and like the people from Norway are like, oh great, I got a freaking American in my heat. They're going to try too hard because he's like a white guy, and they're going to be talking about how hard he hustles, and he's going to scrap his way into the back of my skate. And I'm going to lose my heat, and I'm going to be 4th in the finals, and I have no chance of winning. Like that.
This is you know, if Dabo Swinney doesn't come through with that football scholarship for David Collins, I think we've got a new athletic path for him too.
It's legal there, man. Just take him out.
It's true. Yeah, I would like to get more into the Winter Olympics. It's at such a bad time of the sports calendar for me personally. Of just if I have like the only sports I'm watching right now is it's basketball. Like it's the ACC. Like that's I am just constantly going through backlogs. So like there's even in the morning where it'd be like, I'll watch some sports or whatever. It's like, no, I've got to watch the like Miami Virginia Tech game from 10 days ago that I haven't gotten to yet.
BG, this is a you problem. You don't have to do this.
You watched Gonzaga San Jose State from last night.
That's Gonzaga, man. We can talk about them freely without Swain being here. So it's
come on, nerd.
You cannot talk about them freely. BG's like the anti-Goodson of like best time for sports is 4 a.m. for the Winter Olympics. BG's like, that's the 1 hour I'm definitely sleeping.
Yeah. It's like the stuff like I'll be excited for the Summer Olympics because like those are they're in August, you know, and it's those are fun because it's like, oh, there's nothing else going on for me, you know.
Are we getting a December World Cup?
So the Qatar World Cup is going to be December.
It's coming December, yeah.
Nothing. We don't need to get deep into this, but like when you look at the whole, every Olympic awarding a city is like corrupt and bribes have been paid, and you know people, politicians in the city and whatever. Everybody gets the wheels greased, right? And it's obvious, but we just go ahead with it because it's like, all right. I mean, London, you probably the Olympics could have ended up there anyway. The Qatar World Cup is like the most blatant, naked, clearly corrupt thing. Like we would never. There's no logic in putting it in this small country with many, problems.
It's basically like the ACC tournament going to Tampa.
Yes, 100%. It was like it's like the who was the guy that we pulled off of Minnesota's hockey roster in the middle of the season, and then we started him for a game for the Canes. You know, I'm talking about the guy that we played, the guy that we pulled out of his college roster because we needed more goalies, and then we started him. And Rod Whitmore basically said, like, it was a behind-the-scenes deal. He was giving up the rest of his season, and he and his family and his agents basically said, we'll do this, but you have to give us an NHL start. You can't just pull us over and make him taxi squad in AHL, right? And so the reason that guy got pantsed was because that's like part of the agreement, right? Well, that's what all this was in Qatar. Like, the only reason you're making this no logic deal to put it in Qatar in the summer is because people are just getting paid billions. It's just huge payoff.
The amount of like human sacrifice, it's weird because it's like I feel like some of the reporting I saw, people were trying to like refute it. It was sort of like tough to. It's like you get into like this like weird political angle of it, but there was some reporting like this time a year ago that was what, like 6,000, 7,000 migrant workers had died since Qatar had been awarded the World Cup. And again, like there had been some refuting that, but even if it's like 30 people died helping do this, it's like that's way too many, you know, like it's insane.
But the naked stupidness of it was partly because the World Cup is a summer event. So we let them for like 5 years lie and tell us that they really were going to put us up in the summer. It was like,
well, do you remember they were going to build like there was going to be like a cloud technology thing that like
air conditioning, just ridiculous. And like we let them, we were like, we'll sit and believe this for 5 years so that we can pretend like this was a legitimate pick. Where it's like, no, like they basically should have just, instead of funneling all the billions to like 10 or so people, they should have paid every soccer fan like, hey, we know this is a bad deal, but here's $50. Here's $50 to your average soccer fan just to shut up and just watch the games in Qatar, because that's how much money we're awash in. Now, we've got $50 billion, and we go to all billion soccer fans and be like, here's $50. Here's your cut of the Qatar payoff money. All right, we are running a little bit long, and I've come to realize we're hosting a lot of shows. It costs money to host these things. So check out our podcast. But we're spending some money to host these things. Check out our podcast, download it on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get them. Before we close out, we want to do a couple things. First, we got to know what the weather's going to look like this weekend. The Weather Moose, I believe I actually have some Weather Channel music for you. You ready for this? Just pretend the Weather Channel's on with no host. The temperatures are high. You're trying to figure out where you're flying to. You need to get back to the old sounder. Again, I haven't decided whether I leave that in the past time to create a new Weather Moose sounder. We'll see. But what is Johnson County Weather Report looking like, Moose?
This week's weather report is brought to you by the law offices of Daryl, and Daryl, where our 4Ds can handle the 4Ds: divorce, DUIs, and deadbeat dads. So get you some Big D energy to solve your Big D problems. The first stop is going to be out in Chapel Hill as UNC welcomes Florida State to the Dean Dome. Cool in the morning, wind chill in the lower 40s. Should climb to a high near 68 degrees around tip. Mostly clear skies. No threat of precipitation, so there should be zero excuses for Armando Bacot to go slipping, sliding, flailing, and flopping around out there, boys. Look at this fool.
No, he got a hit. PJ Hall came up on him, I'm pretty sure.
But by the way, did you guys see I think it was David Thompson, the reporter that covers State and Duke. He was at Clemson last night. His car battery died, and PJ Hall, of all people, came and helped him jump his car. It was awesome.
We're nominating, I believe it was Goodson. We're nominating him for whatever that award is for working with the media.
Yep.
PJ Hall stepping up. It used to be just like the guy that sat and would ask, and sit through all our questions.
Yeah, Marcus Page, we know.
The guy that was really polite. But now PJ Hall's raising the bar. If you're not coming out here fixing our vehicles, you're not easy to work with anymore.
Hey, but if PJ was doing that, how could he be getting up 200 free throws in the gym after the game's over for the media?
That's true. It's true. It's clear that PJ Hall is not dedicated to college basketball, or he wouldn't have been out in the parking lot. Well, either PJ Hall is not dedicated to his basketball. Who was the reporter?
David Thompson.
Yeah. What is David Thompson doing leaving a game site before like midnight?
Come on, man! You gotta be tightening and pulling that gamer. You
gotta let us know how hard it's gonna be to make your AP poll picks this week, because you're checking what are you doing leaving the same time as the players? What was it like 45 minutes after the game? Like, do you even work? Also, shout out to Randy H. Came for the food hall discussion, stayed for the weather. That's a true fan right there, because that's the beginning and the end of the show. All right, Moose, keep it going. What you got?
Next, we're gonna head north to Pittsburgh. State takes on the Panthers this weekend, looking for a road win. Scattered showers in the morning. It'll turn to snow in the afternoon, boys. They could see 1 to 2 inches up there, just like NC State's going to have to decide between 1 or 2 scoops of ice cream as the Pack gets a road win, because we all know that NC State loves nothing more than to screw their fans up. When they want to see Keats fired, he's going to bring out a winning streak. Here it comes. Last stop is going to be over.
I thought I'd do the ice cream again. Your State fans.
Bonk.
The ice cream thing was cute. It's less funny now. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. The last stop is going to be over in Chestnut Hill as Duke takes on Boston College Saturday evening. Mostly cloudy, temperatures in the mid-40s on Saturday, climbing to a high near 55. Winds out of the west at 10 to 15 miles an hour. 10 to 15, boys, is also the approximate number of NFL draft slots that David Collins moved up after his hit on Wendell Moore last night. That's the Johnston County Weather Report. I'm the Weather Moose, and I love you guys.
If David Collins played at Temple, Matt Rule would definitely take him in the 3rd round.
Absolutely.
After that hit.
I think the Panthers. I think this is a thing that the Panthers never take guys from Clemson. Apparently, it's also another thing too. I feel like that
sounds like a solid drafting strategy, right? Guys from Clemson usually aren't very good. Ridiculous. All right, it is reminder. Monday is Valentine's Day. Wait, I have that right, correct? Yes, Monday is Valentine's Day. So do something nice for your partner, but more importantly, follow Sports Channel 8 on Twitter. It will be #ACC Valentines. We own this day, one of the greatest of the year. Ben Swain is already figuring out how to take Mac Brown's preseason expectations and make it into a funny gig. I literally got in bed last night and couldn't fall asleep because I was trying to dream up some ACC Valentines, and I don't have any good ones. I feel like Swain always raises the bar. So check that out. Before we go, final thoughts for the weekend. Let's get some weekend predictions. Harmony Food Hall, Brian Geisinger. Do you have a weekend prediction?
Yeah, I have 2 predictions. One, Righteous Gemstones knocks all of our socks off with the new episode this weekend.
Oh, is that going to be during the Super Bowl?
Big game. During the big game.
I don't watch that thing live anyways. And then I bet we get in the entirety. We get both Contra and Father of the Bride, 2 Vampy Week albums played inside the dueling food halls in downtown Raleigh. By the way, Harmony Hall is the name of a Vampire Weekend song.
Does Vampire Weekend play at the Nightdale Food Hall? Is there an alt cooler like country? Would it be like Jason Isbell instead of whatever traditional country, instead of Travis Tritt, you get Jason Isbell?
You get the Avid Brothers at the Nightdale.
Yes, Avid Brothers. Avid Brothers will definitely be playing at the Nightdale Food Hall.
But they're into their New Year's show at the Nightdale Food Hall.
Goodson, prediction for the weekend.
Well, one clarification: the Qatar World Cup. This is great. It starts Thanksgiving week, and there'll be games on Thanksgiving. So we'll have, Lions and Texans, Macy's Parade, and Qatar Senegal to watch with the family. There's 4 games on Thanksgiving, which is just going to be fantastic. That's one thing. And prediction: I predict Terquavion Smith, Baby T, will have more missed shots than Joe Burrow will have incompletion.
Okay, all right. That's a pretty good prediction. I like that.
He's awesome. I don't even care that he misses shots. He's awesome.
He doesn't care that he misses shots.
I'm aware. He did have in the weight game, he did have a couple shots that just slipped out that were nasty step back threes.
Yeah.
He's gonna get shots up though, no doubt.
I hope we get another year of Baby T. Weather Moose, prediction from you?
We've heard rumblings of snow out here in the Triangle for this Sunday. It is not going to happen. I'm here to tell you no flakes, or I should say no accumulation this Sunday. And the second prediction I've got is my rec basketball team will finally run the basketball set that we've been practicing for 2 months. They're going to run it this weekend. We've already won 4 games. They're going to run it this week, guaranteed.
That is one of my favorite things. I used to ref and run the gym for like rec basketball, and seeing like a group of like 8-year-olds actually like running out of bounds play, it truly is like, this is better than a win, baby. Like dude sets a screen and guy realizes it and pulls off. They're like, we gotta lay up. This is awesome.
It's in slow motion too at that age, which is hilarious.
Yes.
It's still in slow motion at 12U. We actually got into a moment. We played Wednesday night, I'm sorry. And the guy that coaches with me is the head coach technically. He just looked at our best player. He's just like, you do you. Just basically is like, go beat Darion Sebron. Just go do your thing.
Yeah, that's –
Did y'all see the video that Lavelle Moten's posting of his kid hitting the game winner? First of all,
future NC State head coach Lavelle Moten?
Yes.
And future they need to offer his kid a scholarship now. He's on the AAU circuit. The game was tied at 15-all, and then they had somebody that was like filming the whole thing. So he had like the first cut like every parent has. Well, then 2 days later he had like a like an and one mixtape cut of him. Like, it was amazing. And the opposing team's coach was like, hey, number 15 has 15 of their points. They go to the scoreboard. It's 15-all. VJ Moten had all the points. And then literally the defense was sound because the defense was just deny. But they should have been denying VJ the ball with like 3 dudes, right? But finally he comes, rips the ball away from another guy, and then immediately drives the basket and makes an and one. So
you got to give him the Steph Curry at Davidson defense.
No, 100%. Not 3 guys on him when he has the ball. 3 guys surrounding him so that he cannot receive the ball, and we'll take the other dudes 4-on-2. Let's go. My prediction for the weekend is that a lot of NFL fans are going to be big mad that we didn't get more Eminem songs during the halftime show.
Yes.
In fact, this is a Snoop and Dre affair. I don't even know. Eminem could do his own Super Bowl. Like, I'm not.
Come on, where's Mom's Spaghetti song at?
Like, he didn't do anything off this album, whatever. Like they're thinking it's going to be Eminem's show, and they do not know who Kendrick Lamar is.
I mean, there's a lot of guys in Germany that are really upset about the lack of Eminem at this halftime show.
But it's going to be fun. I wish this was Dre and Snoop doing their own one. Eminem could do one in 3 years. Kendrick Lamar could do one in 10 years and headline the whole thing. So whatever happens, we'll be talking about it on Monday right here on Sports Channel 8, the streaming. Hit up Josh Goodson for all your mortgage needs. Check out the podcast. It drops a little bit after the show. For Brian Geisker, Josh Goodson, the Weather Moose, Ben Swain. Thanks to Max, Randy. That's 2 different Maxes. Chris, Brad, 31 A-Rob, and another Brad. We had 2 Brads, 2 Maxes. Thanks to everybody who commented on the show. Thanks for watching. Sports Channel 8. We out.